We're starting off high.
You get a two fools agree on that one. Oh, by the way, look, we got the wide shot.
You had accountability. Now, what I can...
Now all you need is a podcast and a YouTube channel.
No, not even.
We're giving you the money. Show me the money.
Apparently there's a Foolproof page.
Shoot the J. Shoot it. Live on Facebook.com/ Foolproof Entertainment Network. I need you on Twitter. I need you to repost the Facebook pages.
To raise a human before I would
Transhuman raise back wolves.
before I would attack a human to raise a wolf.
Right. I hear you. Yo, what up, fools? Welcome to another edition of Do Fools Agree. As always, I'm your host, Michael Reggie, here with my main man, Clifford Jordan Jennings.
That's me.
That's you.
That's I.
Tis I, sir.
That's I.
How you doing, man? How's your week?
I was all right, you know. Just another week.
Just another one?
Another one of those weeks.
Trying to get it going.
Trying to get her done.
Get her done.
Got her done. Now trying to get her gone.
Trying to get her gone?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Get her done, get her gone.
Oh, man, something's up with my camera. Ah, well. Fuck it. Anyways.
Up with your camera?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's not
What's going on with my camera? Is mine on?
Yours is good, sir. Yours is...
It's not crooked?
It's not crooked.
Oh,
You're looking good. I mean, it might be slightly askew. This is the shit that I should have been doing instead of whatever the fuck I was doing. Oh man, yeah, man. This was a long week.
Long week.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like it shouldn't have been was the thing, and it just felt like one. So I don't know.
I think it was actually the opposite for me. I think I was a day behind throughout the week, which made it feel like it was shorter.
Okay.
Like on Tuesday, I was still thinking it was Monday.
I got you.
Throughout the day. But, nah, I mean, you know, a week is a week.
That's true.
Last time I checked, there's still 7 days.
I mean, most weeks.
You know?
Does that work in a leap year? It's still 7 days a week, I guess.
Still 7 days, yeah.
Oh, man.
How does that work?
They just add an extra day to the year. I don't think that it has any influence on...
Right.
So your weeks still have 7 days.
Right.
I don't know. Man.
Who knows what they do? I'm convinced that they moved the clocks back 2 hours instead of 1.
Instead of 1. I mean, this year it certainly feels like it, because doesn't it feel like it's getting dark mad early?
Man, I've never seen it get dark this early.
Like,
in my
does it get
entire
dark
life.
at 5? Is that what happens?
4:30 it starts getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
I don't know that I've ever experienced that before.
No, I'm with you. And I've almost got my camera fixed, so I'm apologizing for stalling this a little bit. You got any inadvertents to get us going, Mr. Jennings?
I do think I had one, but I don't remember what it was, so hopefully it comes back to me.
Okay.
But I don't have one at the moment.
You don't have one for us? Well, I got one for you.
You got one?
I was having a conversation this week, and somebody was trying to be nice. Like they were going to, I can't remember where, but they're basically asking like what kind of beer I like. Like they would check out the NA selection. And I kind of just rattled shit off. I'm like, I like lagers, porters, pilsners. I'll do an IPA and a stout once in a while.
Any of that.
And all I could think was, I kind of like my beer the way I like sex. Like any of it's good. Yeah, I have my favorites, but I'm down to try.
I don't know if any of it's good. I don't know if I would say any of it's good.
I mean, what do you got tonight? You got Ultra something or other. Is that lime shit? That looks like lime, or is it just Christmas?
Michelob Ultra.
Okay.
Infusion. Lime and
I said it was lime, and you were like, nah.
Oh, because it didn't taste like it. I don't pay attention half the time.
Well, I mean, and we like the Brewdog shit. So.
But does that have lime?
No, but what I'm talking about is like IPAs.
Oh.
Yeah. Looks like just give me a good domestic. I'm good.
Yeah.
Most of those are lagers or pilsners, though. Most of the domestics.
See, I don't know the difference. I don't know.
Well, and that was kind of my point. Like, I try anything. Very rarely do I drink a beer and I'm like, I'm not gonna finish this.
Yeah, man, I done dropped my vape somewhere. Probably in the car.
Well, that's no good.
Right.
Checking the pant legs.
Yeah, slide down the pants.
Look at the ankle holster.
You know that's exactly where we're at.
Well, and I was trying to think. I'm like, could you associate certain beer types with sex acts? I don't know. Like I feel like a lager is just your like missionary.
A lager is missionary.
Your pilsner is your doggy style. Like those are the two go-tos.
Okay, give me a pilsner. What's the name of
Miller
pilsner?
Lite's a pilsner.
And what's a lager?
I mean Yingling is the one that comes to mind.
So Bud Light, Budweiser.
I think those are pilsners.
Okay.
I feel like most light beer classifies as
I feel like that's your
so maybe that's your missionary, and then your lager is more your doggy.
Depending on who you're with.
Depending on who you're with, okay, that's fair.
Right, because
it might be mixed up.
Right, in some situations, missionary's better than doggy.
Is it?
Depending on the shape of your partner.
I think that's fair.
No one wants to do doggy on a chalkboard.
That's true. He said a chalkboard.
No
ass.
Right.
What they used to call it, that old pancake butt. You gotta smack it and you can't even find it.
We're just kicking up dust. We're just beating a rug.
Right? Rather be beating the rug than beating yourself. So.
Oh shit! I'm good on beating rugs. That's when you lay on a rug. That's missionary.
Fair. Now we're just coming up with other euphemisms.
IPAs are your. Oh, that's not a position.
Well, it doesn't have to be a position.
Okay.
I said an act. I mean, position. You can change it up.
Okay, then let's change that.
I think your lime infused is like missionary, but you got a leg up.
That might be right.
Sometimes you gotta. I think you and I talked about this one time. Sometimes you just need to change the angle a little bit.
Give it a little flavor.
Get a little pillow underneath.
Add a little flavor to the same old. Nah, if we change it up and they don't have to be positions, then pilsners are pilsners. That would be.
That's your most basic shit.
Yeah, that would be sex after we've been together for years.
Okay.
IPAs would be those regrettable evenings where it's like, What exactly did
That's usually how I feel after an IPA. Like, I don't think I enjoyed that as much as I thought I was going to.
Right. Sometimes they hit you too hard, you can't remember, and then you be like, what exactly did I do? Yeah, those are your IPAs there.
What would be your stouts then?
What's a stout? The dark,
heavy shit.
That's like cougar sex.
Okay.
Just because, you know, a stout is like...
It weighs on you.
I don't know. I don't consider a stout to be...
Now, I also want to call out that you and I are getting to the age where, like, a cougar is not a thing. That's just a woman that we would be with. Unless you talk in 60s, 70s. And then does it still qualify as a cougar if she doesn't have all her teeth?
I mean, listen, they're built different nowadays. Some of these older women are like, you sure you're not 40-something? But, what was you said
IPA, or you said stout was a cougar.
Right. And you said, aren't we getting to... Listen... You're as old as you feel, I suppose.
That's true.
But yeah, stouts. That's older, just because I feel like that's not a binge. It's not a binge drinker's drink.
Right.
Like you don't pick a stout
like
to drink to get drunk.
Nah, you want to take your time and enjoy it.
Right. Like,
is that how you feel about a cougar?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's an occasional.
It's an occasional thing.
Right. It's not a consistent drink.
I got you.
Which is why I would associate that with cougar.
Okay. I can get behind that logic.
Or butt.
Yeah,
because I don't really like that too much. And it's the same as stouts. So cougar.
You gotta take your time with it. You gotta try to enjoy it.
Right. Yeah.
So what's the oral of the beer world?
Oral of the beer world.
Maybe those are your lights. Your ambers, your porters. Those that are kind of in the middle.
What's an amber and a porter? Give me.
I don't know that I've got good examples of them.
Okay. Now that's where it gets tough, right? Because sometimes oral can be better than sex.
I agree.
Which means it would have to be something that isn't considered to be normally better than beer, but on occasions you're like, this is better than beer. It's a Stelzer, I guess.
Maybe that's your lager, like, because if you think of your pilsners as like your go-tos, your domestics, lagers have a little more flavor to them. Personally, I enjoy lagers more. Maybe that's
that could be.
But you should still have them just as regularly as you have pilsners, or like at least sort of close to it.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I like where we've gone with this. I think that we have a good roadmap for attributing sex to different styles of beer.
Listen.
And lots of people say they like IPAs, but do they really?
I mean, you need your IPAs.
Every once in a while.
IPA evenings.
We have a question in the chat. What about ciders? Those are a little too sweet. I don't know. I guess you got to do your ciders and like your White Claws.
Yeah, those are...
Maybe those are oral. Maybe the lagers are something else.
No, because a cider in Seltzer.
Seltzer?
Seltzer. I said
Seltzer is a road close to where I used to work.
Your ciders and your seltzers, you can't drink a lot of, or you get that sour. You know that in the back of your, where you feel like you got to hawk and spit because it's like a...
Well, that sounds like oral to me.
Oral because I don't think you can get enough of it.
Fair.
You know, like I don't think there will ever be a time where
you'll turn down oral.
Right. Where if my partner was like, yeah, you ain't.
I mean, who am I to say no?
Right. But when you get into about your fourth cider or seltzer, and you're like, I can't keep drinking.
That's your hand job.
Yeah, I guess.
Seltzers and ciders are hand jobs.
Yeah, I guess it could be hand jobs.
Manual stimulation, if it's the other gender.
It could be. Yeah, I guess.
Like it's nice at first, but then after a while, you're like, just stop.
Right. What are you doing this for?
What? Like, this ain't doing it.
Right.
I'm like 6 deep. I'm like, I don't feel a fucking thing.
Right. I'm about to get acid reflux.
Right. Shit's starting to get raw.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think that could be accurate. That could be accurate.
There you go. We figured it out. We've attributed all of the different types of beer to sex acts. So let's run back through the list real quick. So Pilsners, we said was,
you know,
that's just standard sex with a steady partner.
Yeah, no, that's the after a while.
Yeah,
that's the sex after years of being together.
What we land on was oral. Is that your lagers? That's your lagers. Your ciders and seltzers are your manual stimulation. Stouts are your anal. And then what were cougars? Those are your IPAs.
Those were stouts too.
Oh, those were
I
stouts.
Said it was either anal
or cougars.
Or cougars.
And then the ones you regret
IPAs
are the IPAs. The regrettable.
They're always fun in the act, but then when you're done, you're like, oh,
I still got that aftertaste in my mouth.
Do I have to make any calls?
Oh, shit.
I don't remember pulling off any condoms. I'm not wearing one still. Those are the ones where you wake up and the condom's still in the morning. Like a loose sock.
Oh, shit.
Watch those IPAs.
Those IPAs will get you. Oh, man. So.
That was a good one.
I thought so.
That was a good one.
That came up in a conversation earlier today, and I'm like, thank you for giving me my inadvertent thought for the day.
Did it come up specifically like that?
Well, this person had asked if they wanted, or if I wanted something because they were going to like a beer store, like look out for a specific kind of non-alcoholic beer or whatever. And then that triggered the thought because they were asking me about, you know, what kind do you like? And I'm like, well, I kind of think of my beers like sex. Like, I haven't really ever turned them down. That was the genesis of the inadvertent.
Bang. That's how we got there. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I ain't turned down a stout. I ain't turned down a stout.
It depends if it's a stout I've had before. I mean, there's some stouts I like. I'm Irish. Guinness, I always get a yes. At least one.
You know what? Ciders would definitely be head.
You think ciders are in with lagers in terms of head? Because we said ciders and seltzers were handies.
Oh, right. Yeah, no. I lied.
Because they get too sweet and eventually you just don't want them anymore.
Right. But I was thinking like, yeah, no, that still wouldn't apply. Because I was about to say, I'll drink a cider if I've already been drinking.
Yeah.
But I won't drink a cider. I won't start with the cider.
Well, sometimes you need a little warm up in the middle.
Or the end.
Right.
Or the money shot. You know?
That's true. You can always mix in the ciders.
But I don't know, because at the same time, I wouldn't turn it down.
Right. And that was the point.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're going lager.
Oh man. All right, so you want to get it? Did any of that trigger your inadvertent thought?
Hell no.
Hell no.
Hell no.
All right, well then let's get into it.
Would not have been around beer and
sex, sex and
right.
beer.
The acts equaling to the beer never would have been there. That never would.
But that's why we've got this show, Cliff, because right. you and I bounce off of each other well.
Yeah, I wouldn't have equaled.
But I knew you'd contribute if I teed it up.
Oh yeah, no, I can definitely see. I can get there.
See, here's how this show works for the uninformed. Here's how this show works. Usually, I try to come up with topics. Cliff tries to derail those topics. When he derails, I try to get us back. We go back and forth. We end up in a good place. Shows like last week where we were both sleepy, we don't have that dynamic. We were both trying to bounce off and just sticking. So, when we have a little bit to go off of, this is a very fucking entertaining show. And now he's contemplating. He's like,
because I don't know
if that's right.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good synopsis.
No?
No.
How would you describe it? I mean, we're coming up on almost 100 episodes here, man. How would you describe it if you were trying to get somebody new into the show to listen to an episode or two? Because we need not necessarily like a facelift or anything, but we need a little marketing right now. We've stabilized our core audience. We're at almost 100 subscribers on YouTube. We probably have 50 consistent people on the podcast downloads.
I don't know if I'm a marketing guy.
Well, that's where I'm just looking. You give me your thoughts, and I'll figure out how to marketize it.
See, but that's the thing, though, right? Like, I'm not the guy that describes my dick. I'm the guy that drops it on the table. Like, don't ask about it. It's right here. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I think that's actually what I'm going to put in the ad. It's going to be, I'm not the guy who's going to tell you about the show. I'm just going to drop my dick on the table.
I just kind of drop these nuts out.
There you go. I seem to remember having a Bruno Mars song on one night. And you doing exactly
that
just
that.
Was
an accident. I had loose draws that night.
No comments. All right, let's get into this main topic. Why don't you tee this up? So this came off of a conversation you and I had earlier this week. We got your computer back up and running. That was a good thing. I'm sorry we lost everything, but the computer's still working, and we can go back and download shit.
Listen, the past is the past.
That's right, moving forward. But you were telling me about some podcasts you were listening to, and about how they were talking about different planets in our galaxy or universe, or was it a YouTube channel?
This wasn't a podcast. This was on YouTube. I can't think of the channel, the 24s or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't think of the channel. It's not anything I'm subscribed to, but
just
the dude, it's like a British dude, and he does have like...
Yeah, your YouTube homepage is all over the place. I love it.
Yeah, it definitely
You got a bunch of just random fucking shit on there.
It definitely is.
I see the same 12 videos every time I log on.
Oh, no. Mine goes everywhere. Mine's like a...
Yours is driven by the algorithm.
Is it driven by the algorithm?
Based on the different shit that you've clicked on, probably.
I don't think it knows my algorithm.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't think it knows my algorithm just because...
Your galaxy's firing too many different directions.
Clearly, you know what I mean? Like, of course they know my sports. Like, they'll show me sports shit because that's all I'm searching. But then when it's outside of that, they don't quite hit the nail on the head. But every now and then I'll see a video that intrigues me. But then they'll try to add in the shit on the algorithm, and I'll be like, see, you just don't get me.
Yeah.
You know? But this one was, I guess, I think it's the 24s. I can't think of the name of the channel, but he was describing the most, what was the title of it? The strangest or the most...
It was like most it wasn't uninhabitable, but it was like the most.
Let me see if I can look it up, because I know it should
most
be in my
dangerous
history.
or most
something like that.
Yeah.
Planets in our not our solar system, our galaxy.
And this is all based on like scientific research that like they've actually seen these planets and they think that they understand their composition and those types.
Yeah, and then that was another thing. Like when you're talking about new planets that you're discovering and you're labeling them and you're talking about their mass and like how is it that you can measure that? Like their density and like because they have different categories for like puffy planets that are like oversized, but their density is smaller than it.
I'm sure it has something to do with the level of like light that gets refracted or reflected.
Or could it be the speed of the
atmosphere
of the revolution,
yeah,
like around its star and all that?
It's possible. Or how close it is to a star. Because how close it is to a star will tell you kind of what you would expect the climate to be. But again, we don't know that for sure. We just know that based on our planet and our solar system and our understanding of the laws of nature and physics.
Because I would imagine you also wouldn't know that specific star's gravitational pull. And if it's gravitational pull...
Yes and no, because there is mathematical formulas behind that, right? Because it's the mass of the body. But see, so you can measure the mass of the body if you have a rough understanding of distance.
But see, that's the thing about it, right? Is because I would imagine that calculation would only apply if the gravitational pulls were comparable.
Well, I think based on our laws of physics, and again, this is our understanding.
All right.
There is an equation that basically gives you gravitational pull based off the mass of an entity. Now, to your point around like density, I don't know how they know how dense a star is.
So here's where it throws me, right? Because one of the planets, this is an example of one of the planets and what I'm talking about and how its physics doesn't match our physics, right? So it's like, how do you judge that? And this was the one that we talked about where I said the entire planet is made up of water.
Okay.
There's no land at all.
Which terrifies you because you're not a fan of open water or open space.
By far, scariest planet to me out of all of them. But that's the one where I said the core of its planet. They said it's all water through the whole planet. If you go down miles and miles into the ocean, you'll eventually reach its core, which is covered in a giant ball of ice, right? And that's because... Okay, so no,
you said it was something to do with like the pressure of the water.
Right, the pressure of the water around it.
You go deep enough that it makes it.
Right, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. Okay, so the one where I'm saying, like, based on our physiology or whatever it is, there's a planet who they said is similar to the Star Wars planet, the icy planet, right? It's made up of a big ball of ice, the planet is, but it's constantly burning at 1,100 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
But the planet itself doesn't melt, even though it's ice, a burning ball of ice. And that's because its planet's gravity is so strong that as the ice on the outside melts, the gravity pulls the ice back to its core.
Pulls the water back down.
And freezes it once again.
So it's constantly like in a cycle there.
Right. So what I'm getting at is if that planet's gravity is so strong that it can pull the melting water back down to its core, then I also feel like, how do we know that the star doesn't act similarly and couldn't be
Fair.
pulling that planet closer, which then would throw off the mathematics of how dense and large and all of that the star is, because that gravity scale is different than ours.
You would think, yeah. And there's got to be, like, it can't be an exact science at that distance, right? Like, if we're talking about something outside of our solar system, like, we have estimates on how big the planet looks.
Right.
And we can see to the surface.
And like, I get using all of the equations to try to come up with.
Yeah.
But those are the things that I feel like.
Well, and you never know. Like, outside of our solar system, away from our sun, we're only using our knowledge of our sun and our planets in our solar system as a basis for predictions about planets and other areas of the galaxy. We don't know what kind of, like, maybe there's different kinds of electromagnetic interference or fields or other things that would throw those kind of things off.
Right. And because that's what I'm thinking, like the equivalent of something like that, gravity being so strong that it's pulling melting ice back down into its core, would be like Earth's gravity being so strong it literally would drive us into the dirt.
Yeah. Would it though? Because think about it. It's rain, right? Like we have evaporation. Like we have the same thing. All that is like water evaporating from a large body of water and then coming back down is rain.
Right, but you're pulling that water through ice.
But you don't, like, you're assuming it's a solid ball of ice. I'm sure there are cracks and other things that it can seep down into. And then once it gets to a certain depth away from that surface temperature,
I guess the reason why my mind doesn't go that route is because if it's all melting,
right,
that would essentially seal all.
Are you going from ice to liquid to gas? Because as soon as it becomes liquid, then you're sealing everything back down.
Right. You're filling in those cracks.
I would think that if it's burning at 4,000 degrees, you're going straight from ice to gas, basically.
Well, that was also Celsius, so I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit,
but still, same idea. You're still at 10 times the freeze point.
Right.
Which should, if it is water, if it is truly water. But we also don't know what the composition of that shit is.
Right.
We may think it behaves like water on our planet, but that doesn't mean it's H2O.
It may not be, 1 part hydrogen, 2 parts oxygen. Right.
H2, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen.
Oh, is that right? Oh, right. H2O, right. Right. Not HO2. Maybe there it is.
Maybe it is. Maybe that's why. Maybe we haven't seen that, so we don't know how it behaves.
I still feel like that even goes into the using your math. I feel like that's a very American thing.
Using our own math.
Right. Like it's our way. Our solar system is this way, so yours is too.
Right.
Yeah, I just feel like that's a very American way of thinking. But there was there were other planets like that one, the water one, I thought was interesting, but it made the most sense.
It does, because in theory that could be our planet, right?
What do you mean?
All the polar ice caps melt, the sea levels rise, we're below sea level.
But back to the melting planet
so it becomes water world, is what I'm saying.
Right, and that's the nickname of that planet.
Yeah.
But my question then is our water made of the same composition of that planet to where it's dense enough to create ice at the core of? Because you got to think our planet's made of fire in the core.
Well,
so if we
wouldn't necessarily get to an ice core. And we would probably, well, I don't know, if civilization's underwater, does Mother Earth kind of rebuild herself in terms of repair the damage to the ozone layer that's causing, and do you end up back to polar ice caps after humankind has been wiped out because there's no landmass?
Wasn't the whole reason that the polar ice caps happened was because, well, quote unquote, because the meteor hit the Earth and the...
I don't think that's why they happened. I think that's what caused the... I mean, if you believe the giant meteor theory, it created an ice age, but that's not why we have polar ice caps. It actually is... Basically, what that did was extend the polar ice caps into covering most of the planet.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess the theory that I heard was that the meteor hit and the dust or whatever went up into the atmosphere and blocked out the sun for so long that.
Yep. But that's why Ohio's flat, because you had polar ice caps this far south. So basically, there were glaciers moving across Middle America. That's why a lot of Middle America is flat, and you don't have mountains and those kind of things, because the Earth was flattened by glaciers.
Right.
And then as those have retracted back through the northern U.S. and back to through Canada, back to the polar region, that's where we sit today. Now, to your point, we don't know for sure that the polar region has always been ice caps. But that's what we believe. Because it's the angle at which those areas don't get the sun. Right. Don't get the sunlight. Or the consistent sun.
And then I also think, like, there's so much of our own world that's undiscovered for you to be telling me what the fuck you think about another universe.
Oh, no doubt. There is so much to be discovered towards the core of our planet.
Like, you can't even tell us about the motherfucker that we're on.
Right.
You're telling me about these planets.
And you out here trying to tell me something.
Right. This planet's this wide.
You can't even reach the depths of the ocean.
Right.
You can't reach the depths of, like, the Mariana Trench.
So you mean to
you have a lot of theories about stuff that lives down there because things have floated to the top or whatever. But you don't know for sure what's down at those bottom depths. That's where the aliens live, man. They have the technology to survive at those depths, and we don't. That's why they disappear off of radar. They fly out over the ocean, and boom, gone. They just dive deep.
What'd you just say?
I said that's where the aliens live, is down deep in the ocean. We can't even explore the depths of our own oceans, and we're trying to make predictions about things thousands of light years, hundreds of light years.
And I was thinking about that too, right? Because if you got a whole planet full of water, then of course that would mean that it would have to be habitable.
Right.
It may not have land for people to inhabit.
Again,
but
what we are assuming there though is human life. Like Star Trek 4. Star Trek 4 is about an alien probe coming to Earth looking for humpback whales.
Right.
Because they used to talk to humpback whales.
Right.
An ocean planet, maybe that's where the probe came from, was the humpback whale planet.
I wouldn't assume human life, because human life would only
evolve from apes or evolve from mammal species.
I mean, if you believe that as well, but even still, human life would only be designated to here.
Right.
Wouldn't be designated to anywhere else in the universe necessarily, because you adapt to your environment. Yeah. And this is our environment, so we would adapt to look this way.
Right.
Doesn't mean that they find an Earth-like planet that's exactly like the Earth index, that they would look like us.
I agree. Because they would have, the chances of, so depending on what you believe about the creation of life, it was random shit that came together to initiate the first single cell organism, and then everything evolved from that.
Right.
It was a random combination of proteins, basically. And it was very instinctual and whatever. your amoebas or whatever.
So with that being said, though, I don't think that when we talk about life on a planet of water, that it would ever be human life. I would think that it would be something that has adapted to living in the water.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, man. It could be fucking whales. Like, it's the whales that sent the probe to Earth to find the humpbacks here. That's the other thing. We've talked about human arrogance in a lot of different regards, and we assume that other aliens, or we assume that aliens are going to look like the Green Men or whatever. How do we know they're even corporeal? How do we even know they have bodies?
Like
maybe
orbs.
they're orbs, or maybe they're photonic, or maybe they're, you know what I mean? Like,
what's photonic?
Like beams of light.
What
I mean, if you listen to Yoda in Star Wars,
luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
But they say that's what we are, right? They say that this is just the shell of us.
Well, and I think that's where you start getting into philosophical conversations around, are we this physical form, or are we the soul that, like, inhabits a physical form?
Well, I don't think we could be this physical form if we prove that energy isn't destroyed, it's just converted.
Right.
Because this physical form can only last for so long, but if energy can't be destroyed, it means it has to move on to somewhere else.
Right.
So I don't think that would mean that we are this. This is just our vehicle.
I don't disagree.
This is just our spacesuit, so to speak. It's almost like, what if we...
It's our Earth suit.
Right. I said, right. Spacesuit. It's almost like, what if we couldn't survive on the world without this suit, with these organic pieces, lungs, and the heart, and, like, to make you be able to walk. You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. And that comes down to, what is life? Is it the physical? Is it the metaphysical? Is it something else that we just don't understand?
Well, I mean, I was there. Well, that question is, I feel like that's a lot simpler. Life is the physical.
Okay.
Because that's the
But to your point, if nothing can be created nor destroyed, and that includes a soul.
But you don't remember your soully travels.
Okay.
All you remember.
So
is
you're thinking more like reincarnation, like your soul has to go somewhere.
Like they
so how do you explain, like, a growing population? How do you create new matter?
What do you mean?
So if it's a finite source, how are there more people today than there were?
I look at it like grains of sand in an hourglass.
Okay.
There's hella grains up there in whatever's
world, dropping down,
waiting to be delivered into this world. Whether it's being recycled or not, we're just flipping that hourglass and recycling those same grains of sand. There's not new sands being added. It's the same grain of sand. We're just flipping.
We have more sand in the pot right now than we have in the past.
Right.
We have more sand in the bottom right now than we had in the past, which is why we're due for an extinction event.
Right. You've extended.
Wait, Thanos.
Listen, you've extended the rate of life, which means more sand, which means that hourglass has longer to empty.
I see what you mean.
But it doesn't mean there's any more grains of sand.
Right.
We just have longer. It's not being flipped as fast as it was before. But yeah, to that question, I would view the life as our physical existence, just because I don't think that there's anybody... Well, I wouldn't say nobody, but nobody that I've ever met that could explain to me what it was like out of yourself.
Yeah.
What was your...
I mean, we kind of talked about that 2 weeks ago. I talked about an out-of-body experience. But that was also transferring from... That was temporary.
Right, and that was also with your familiarity of that body.
True.
But this would be an existence of, that body is unfamiliar. All I know is this light that's me.
Right.
And nobody remembers being the light traveling through the universe, the heavens, wherever.
Or previous lives that they've lived.
They only remember
your
once.
Memories may be attached to the physical.
Right. And they only remember once
essence,
that grain of sand drops, and now
I mean, that kind of tracks with that Pixar movie. That kind of tracks with Soul.
I've never seen it.
No? Yeah, I think you would...
You say that all the time, and I still haven't seen it.
It's worth a watch.
Is it on any of the streaming?
I mean, it's on Disney Plus.
I don't have that.
Yeah, see, you need to get on Disney.
I do need to add it because I pay for Hulu, and I know it's only like $1 to add that. And ESPN, I just haven't called.
Yeah.
I hate talking to them.
You might be able to do it from like the Hulu account screen.
Ooh, yeah, I might be able to actually.
You have to do it on a computer though. You can't do it from your device.
Can I do it from my phone?
If you logged, if you go to the
have a computer,
right, I was about to say, I just fixed one, Cliff. I know you got one.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'll have to do that. But what were we talking about before that?
I mean, it was the planets and
the deep shit.
It was the planets and the different or the uninhabitable planets. Like, so you talked about the ice one. You talked about the one that was made of water. I think another one you shared with me was like the one that's like basically rains glass that blows horizontally because of the wind.
Right. They said it's a carbon-based planet.
And the core is like diamonds or some shit, or was that a different one?
No, you're right. That was a different one. The other one was. It had something to do with carbon too.
That's why I was wondering if that was the diamond one.
Yeah,
carbon is. I mean,
the glass one had something to do with carbon too. Basically, their atmosphere like created a hail, but because of the carbon, the hail was like black glass, like anthracite kind of.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It was stuck in a permanent hurricane, so the winds are 4,000 miles per hour at all times, which makes the glass go horizontally across the planet as opposed to up and down. So it's like one big tornado of glass moving at 4,000 miles per hour. And like I said, I would still rather be on that planet than the all-water
one. Can only tread for so long.
Listen, you only gotta beat me one way, Scotty, and that's just down. You don't gotta worry about up. But if you put me on that water planet, listen, beat me up, motherfucker. Beat me up.
What are other uninhabitable planets you could think of? Like, the ones that always intrigue me in science fiction, usually like Star Wars or Star Trek, are the ones that are some sort of plant life, but it's almost like carnivorous plant life.
Right.
Like it eats anything that finds its way to the surface.
But we have that here.
I mean, we do. It's at a small scale.
Right, but I also feel like what would it be at if we let everything grow naturally? Like,
True.
how do we know that they wouldn't grow to their specific habitat like a snake? Like,
yeah,
I'm only allowed to be this big because I'm in this little ass pot.
Right.
But if you let me out in the wild, I could be as big as a tree and you'd never see me coming.
Yeah. I mean, and there are carnivorous plants in our world that eat like small rodents,
flies and rats.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
Can you imagine? I mean,
well, not rats, not like mice and shit, but
yeah, mice.
I'm sure. No, I don't think a rat's going down.
I mean, it depends.
I don't know. It depends on how big that plant is. You put one of them motherfucking New York rats up against the plant.
that goes and grabs its own pizza.
Listen, you put one of them up against the plant, that motherfucker gonna smoke that bitch. It's gonna roll that bitch up and smoke that bitch. You hear what I'm saying?
Oh,
but yeah,
man.
no. The crazy thing about it, when you asked me that question, I thought to myself is that like this is science here, right? Because our universe is infinite, right? So that means that every possibility you can think of is real somewhere inside of it.
I think that's fair.
So when you say like what would be like the scariest planet or like it's out there, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like your wildest dreams, it's out there.
Like there's a planet that's the atmosphere is just made out of THC.
Right, and that's the normal, and people are trying to get sober to get high.
Right.
That's interesting.
They're like, if I could just focus for 2 minutes.
Or if I could just unfocus.
Unfocus for 2 minutes.
Yeah, that would be crazy. That's crazy. That's the, I bet that is a peaceful planet.
Right? There's no war on that planet.
I bet that's a peaceful planet.
Well, that transitions me into the other half of this conversation.
Not if white folks are there.
Fucking colonizers.
Kinda.
I can't. Wait.
I was kidding. I was only
Listen.
kidding.
No, he wasn't. Oh, man. But that does take me into my other thought about this, which was, all right, so we talked about planets. I think it's time for us to step back into the multiverse, Cliff. The multiverse of Earth.
What's that?
How would Earth be different? And I'll use the one that we just left off with. How would Earth be different if hemp was never made illegal?
How would Earth be different if hemp
How
was
would
never made
our
illegal?
world be different? How would the U.S. be different if the paper and the wood industry, the timber industry, wasn't able to shut down the hemp industry?
I don't think global warming would be a thing.
No? You think it stops industrialization overall?
Not overall, but I think the lack of need to chop down trees.
Oh, you think because we wouldn't be quite as deforested.
Right.
I don't know if that's,
because you got to think of trees
Yeah.
make up a lot of things, cardboard, paper, all that could be replaced with hemp.
Yeah.
Then you can keep those trees there.
And
Now, I
they're
don't
still
doubt
doing
that they may
oxygen.
not, industrialize the area and put buildings there. But I still feel like
But you're not
fact that-
harvesting trees
Exactly.
for like the needs that we use them
Which
for.
means
today.
they could stay around longer, clean the atmosphere more, not as much, dilution. I also think that, I don't know, that's a good question. I don't know if the current opioid big pharma situation,
if we had tapped the power of cannabis,
right? I don't know if
it would be as dire.
Right. I don't know if this situation is prolonging life or restricting.
Right.
It could be that we would live longer and maybe we'd be even more overpopulated because kidneys aren't failing from having to take 7
Right.
opioids a day.
You're
for
not
your
dealing
different...
with overdoses and those
Right.
kind of things.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of things there, that I think there's things there that we don't even think about.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't even tapped into all of the uses of hemp.
No, I don't think so either.
So we wouldn't know. I don't think we would even know all of the... If they would have started that experiment back when, instead of trying to criminalize it,
Right.
I think we'd be currently so far ahead that there would be new shit, hemp
Base.
benefits that, we would find currently
that.
today. But I think because, of the way the government has, stigmatized it.
Although I think that's changed a lot in the last 10 years.
Definitely.
But I agree with you. It's still not recreationally legal here. It's still not recreationally legal in a lot of places in the U.S.
And even beyond the medicinal or recreational uses of it, like we don't have to ingest it to benefit from it.
Right. That goes back to hemp. Hemp paper is more cost effective and less harmful to the environment to make.
Hemp is the dream plant.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder why you would criminalize it.
I mean, it was the timber industry. Like that was
okay.
Was pretty much why.
It's capitalism.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the whole Edison versus Tesla thing.
And don't get me wrong, like we talked about in previous podcasts, I'm all for capitalism. But there's a point where capitalism gets corrupt.
Well, it's late stage capitalism, which is where we're at.
Right.
Where it has
That's
gotten
the
too
issue.
Big for its own britches, and it is devouring itself.
Right. Where you can pay to ruin the world to make more money.
Right.
At some point, there has to be
have some level
that says,
of capitalism with morals, right? Like,
don't care how much money you have, that can't go down.
Right. There's no reason for there to be any billionaires.
No, I agree. And I hate the conversation that we have about taxing them and all that, because the bottom line is...
No, I like your solution better. You got more than 500 million. Tell us why we shouldn't.
Yeah,
you
got to campaign. You got to campaign. It's not enough of you anyway, right? So you should have to campaign like a president as to what you're doing for us
with that level of money, or
to stop us from coming in and taking it.
The problem is that it's obviously non-physical at this point, and it's all whatever. But
doesn't matter though, because see, that's the thing. It's crazy, and this is definitely gonna sound crazy to say, but I feel like people that have that much money and don't do are evil.
Yeah.
You're hurting the world, right? So we don't necessarily have to take it, but your family and everything else is in danger now.
Right.
So it makes more sense.
For you. Right. I hear you. I don't disagree.
Like, your family's up for grabs as well. But
I mean, at the end of the day, do those people care about their families?
You care about something.
That's fair.
And eventually we'll knock it off. You know what I mean? Eventually it'll get knocked off and you'll be like, what do I do now?
Right. No, I don't disagree.
And once you find that one thing with one of them, you'll find it with the
other ones. That's fair. I like it.
But, I mean, like, first and foremost, well, that's where we're headed. Let's not mistake it at all. There is never
the uprise of the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie.
Right. There's never going to be a civil war on black and white. It's going to be haves and have-nots.
And the have-nots vastly outnumber the haves. If nothing else, we have more bodies to throw at it.
Not even more bodies, but you got to think about how the have-nots live, right? Like, whether legally or illegally, the number one ammunitions, suppliers are South, and they usually sell to people who don't have.
Right.
These aren't millionaires buying all the guns. They can't use them all.
Right.
A millionaire will buy an army before they ever buy a gun.
Right.
So if you got bodies and ammunition, then that becomes a tougher war to fight. And then how many of your soldiers are haves as well?
Right. Have you made them haves?
Right.
Or are they have-nots as well?
And they're like, well,
and are they eventually going to turn on you?
Because you got to think, if you have an army and you expect them to fight for you, not only do you have to make them haves, but you have to make them so much of haves that they run the risk of losing what they have as well.
Right.
Otherwise, they have no
stake in it.
Right. Why would I fight? Why am I fighting? I don't have enough to fight these people.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what a hungry animal will do. I'm eating and you want me to fight though? Nah, I'm good. I don't have that same fight they got.
No.
And you're not paying me enough to fight.
You're not paying me enough to compensate for that.
Right.
probably true.
So I don't think we're too far off from that. And the way things are going currently, I could see us getting there within the next 7.
Possible.
Unless
there's a shift or a slowdown in how outrageous it's
definitely
getting.
within the next 10 years. But the only thing I would hope that we've
found another solution
by then. But at the rate that we're going now, it's definitely going to be within the next 5 to 7 years that you see an uprising of us and them.
I mean, depending on ideologies, a lot of people say that's what last January was about.
I said the only thing they did wrong was they did include the black folks.
That's fair.
They included the black folks, made it an everybody thing. The government would still have a problem on their hands.
But that's the problem with that. I don't want to go into that too much.
But, it's ironic because they're saying COVID's the great uniter.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of black folks that's like, I don't trust it. And a lot of those right-wing white folks that usually
say the same.
With the black folks are like, now they're coming together.
Are we forcing? We're forcing those groups together,
right?
As a upper middle class white guy, that seems dangerous to me.
Listen, I'm telling you, that would be the most dangerous thing in the world.
I mean, I feel like that right wing side already has a lot of the Latino population too. So
right,
or the Latinx community or whatever we're calling them today.
Whatever we're calling them. Nobody ever asked them
what they want to be called.
That's that whole universe theory that we're the men on top. Our rules are the only rules.
Right. That's true. I've never heard that come from somebody of Latin descent. It's usually some white person in HR.
Right. Or some Latin person that was born here and doesn't know anything about what
back home.
Right.
It's true. All right, what are other big things in either our country's history or the world's history that if they had turned out differently would be drastic shifts? I actually kind of brought one up earlier. What if Tesla had the success that Edison had?
Nikolai? Mm-hmm. There's not to say that he didn't.
Well, I'm saying, what if we had put more of our energy as either thought leadership, scientific research, those kind of things, into Tesla's ideas versus Edison's sooner? Yes, we are finally kind of going back and being like, nah, Tesla had the right idea on a lot of shit.
Right.
But that's more in the last 20 years, 15 years? What if all that time in between had been spent on Tesla's view of that versus Edison's? What if Edison had never existed and everything that Tesla did kind of grew from where he had it versus a 40-year period or a 50-year period where we didn't make advances that got to his level?
Well, see, I think that's interesting, right? Because I think that they're two different people.
Oh, they're definitely two different people. Edison was a salesman.
Of course.
Tesla was a scientist.
Right. And that's what I was getting at, is that although Nikolai Tesla had the right idea on a lot of things, make no mistake about it, he was still a mad scientist.
He never would have been able to hit critical mass, basically. People would have been too scared of it.
Or I think people would have embrace something that was too powerful for even him to understand type shit. He was working on time machines and all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And they were saying he was close with that. And you got to think, that's back when.
That's before you had computer algorithms to do some of that math for you.
If that motherfucker was close back then.
Right.
That's scary.
He would have already split off the maybe he was successful. Maybe there's already multiverses and spun off timelines.
We talked about that.
Well, that's where this conversation is coming from.
Trump's great grandfather was on the board of retrieving Nikolai Tesla's information from the Nazi Germans after the World War. That. And they were saying they think that conspiracy theory, Trump, its family got that information and Nikolai actually had it completed, and Trump's family had it built, and they say Trump traveled back in time to win the presidency.
He just kept trying until he got it right.
I mean, that's a conspiracy that they say, but I do find it ironic that...
So there's probably a multiverse where he's Lord Emperor of the Trumpian states of America.
I guarantee. Now the question is, what would that world be like?
What would Trump's world be like? I mean, probably just as shitty as this one.
Yes, I was going to say I don't think that it would be too much worse or better than...
My worry is that it would be a lot whiter. That's kind of my first worry.
No, I don't think Trump would do that.
You don't? This is the same dude that took out an ad against the Central Park 5 and didn't have any idea about what was going on.
Right, but I think Trump, like you said, Trump's also a businessman, and let's be honest, black folks run the culture.
True.
You're not going to make the money or the
But does money matter if he's at the top and there is no economy anymore?
I think if everyone else isn't happy, then you're not
you're not the Lord Emperor.
Right.
Well, his whole theory was he could hold the U.S. basically hostage with the U.S. military. That's why he put people in the Department of Defense, the Joint Chiefs.
Right, but at the same time, that goes back to the conversation about the haves and the have-nots. And if he upset everybody enough to want to rebel against the military, then you see, does the military fight?
Will the military stand with the powers that be? Or fair.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't. I'm not the guy that will ever say that's not possible, that's not real.
Yeah.
Because there are so many unexplains in this world that we haven't discovered half of. And we're not even going into like inventions and minds.
No doubt.
Like just the world in general, just the world itself, there's so much that we know nothing about, let alone mapping of the brain and what some people are successful at, and you know how certain people, like why they say Kanye's so good at music, because he has that, what's it called,
where you can basically see
the tones
colors,
and colors,
yeah,
and you can put them together easier than, like, people have gifts like that for different things. Like the guy, you give him a date and he can do the math and come up with how, or what was it? It was a dude who was so good at math. I can't remember what they gave him. They gave him an event or no, what was it? And he could give you the exact date and time just based off of like a mathematical equation that would pop into his head, and he would...
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I mean, shit like that. Like, so when you think about like a Nikola Tesla and how advanced his mind must have been, it leads me to believe that he either used his mind differently or
he was able to tap into
had a higher availability of his brain.
The whole percentage of your brain power
working.
Kind of thing. Yeah. I think that tracks.
And if you have people like that, especially in power like a Nikolai, there's no one smart enough to understand you.
Right.
We just kind of have to take your word.
Well, it kind of becomes who is guiding him or who is managing him at that point.
But
you always end up with an emperor.
How could you though? You know what I mean? How could you manage someone that smart? I can lead you to believe that you're managing me.
Well, again, it depends on what types of intelligence we're talking about. Like generally, I won't say generally. I think the tendency is for folks that are that intelligent in a certain field or a certain...
Not to be social or not to...
Social and emotional intelligence isn't there as much.
But I guess what I'm getting at is there's no checks and balances, right?
Because there's no way to validate.
There's nobody smart enough to know what it is he's doing, so regardless, you have no say over me.
Right.
I say whether it's done right, I say whether it's done wrong. You may be the guy with power, but I'm the guy that knows how to get you that power.
Yeah.
So there is no checks or balances over me, regardless
as long as you're keeping me happy or whatever.
Because the bottom line is, I could build something that I said was this, it's actually that.
Yeah, it's Tony Stark and the Iron Man.
Exactly, that could change everything.
This is not the Jericho missile.
It's almost like when you think about it, it's almost like keeping a lion as a pet.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you benefit from that lion. That lion may protect you and provide power.
But that lion may eat you at any given point.
Right. It can also take...
A lion going lion.
Right. Right.
Oh, man. All right, quick little shout out to the chat. So I mentioned the Rita out there earlier with
Maurice.
the IPAs and ciders. She was the one asking, what's an IPA, what's a cider? Angie out there now, I just want to try all the flavors. That was in addition to the beer conversation. Uncle Dave's out there. Hey, nephews.
You've already tried them.
Hey, man, nephews. Love you both. Ciders suck.
Uncle Dave. Who wants to... Never mind.
Malcolm King out there. Good old Malk. Yo, fools, jewels, bufools. Like, I don't know what the fuck he's saying.
Fools, what?
He said, pools, jewels, bufools. That's Malk's an idiot. Yeah. And then Ange chiming in with, ever wonder if it's too hard to see what's close as in our own planet? Wonder what they're missing on these other planets just because of assumptions. And I think we got into that as the conversation went. So.
And that's what I'm saying, like.
No, it's human arrogance.
And you can't, I don't give a fuck how long, I don't care if Nikolai motherfucking Tesla himself built you that telescope. You can't see.
Nikolai would have probably found a way to get to that planet and investigate it for himself.
I'm sure that he would have been able to definitely come up with something.
When we already have basically warp propulsion type technology.
I guarantee you we would if he was involved. Like he was. Maybe he wasn't though, because that goes back to the secular thing as opposed to linear.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't.
And my point wasn't necessarily that it was him directly, but because his ideas were so shunned by the scientific community of the time, and they latched more onto Edison's ideas because his ideas were portrayed as dangerous and same as the hemp industry, that if scientific research had been focused on those, similar to what you're talking about with, cannabis, hemp technology, etc., where would we be differently than we are today? Not saying that he lives forever and everything's dictated by him, but like if we were feeding off of his ideas earlier on, is there a difference in terms of where we're at from a technological perspective?
Well, I think we're still following a lot of his models today.
I think we are now, but I think that a lot of that was shunned early on.
Definitely. And I also think that...
Like, we lost 40, 50 years because of it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'd say at least. Just because no one knows what all he succeeded at, but the Nazi leaders that were able to acquire those documents.
Right.
So there's no one's to say that a lot of the new technology that we have now is not from that book he wrote way back when.
True.
And like I said, because there's no one else smart like that, there is no checks and balances, so you have to figure it out yourself.
It's taking longer to figure it out than...
Right. So, but to the original question, I think that's a problem. I think anybody that is that smart at something that important to the world is a problem. You're a threat.
Yeah.
You're a threat to security here. And we might got to get rid of you.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, honestly, that's probably what
might
happens.
have to get rid of you.
That's probably true.
And I understand that logic. That's why I said it's always best for you for people not to know what you know. Right.
I think that's fair.
Which is kind of counterintuitive to this podcast, because I feel like
you've given up a lot of your secrets.
Not even, you know what I mean? This is just the tip of the iceberg. But what I do with me, like the way my mind works, me being like a strategist, I do feel like even the thoughts that we share give a brief glimpse into the mind, of what could you know.
Right.
What could you really know? If you're talking like that, just about, shit like that off the whim, what could you know, or what could you actually have the information but not know yet?
Right. That you have the ability to get to.
Right.
But no, I think that makes sense.
You know more than you know. You just haven't unlocked that know yet. And if the right people were to hear the wrong conversation, I could definitely see them silencing motherfuckers. Right. Not us on here, but...
But that's how that kind of stuff starts.
That'd probably be good pub.
Them shutting us down, we go pirate. Pirate podcasting. You can find us at our own internet server, right. Not on Apple, you come straight to us.
I was just thinking about that. It was that movie Piracy that was supposed to be a true story?
I don't remember that.
I never
because they shut it down before I knew about it.
Something, right? Because I remember seeing the previews, but I don't ever remember seeing like the movie out anywhere. But it was about like, I can't remember what was going on, but it was a radio station that I guess was giving up like government secrets or something, and the government shut them down, but they weren't done.
They weren't done giving
casting
secrets.
Their shit, so they bought a boat and started casting from the ocean, and would like change locations every day, so they couldn't find out where they were broadcasting.
Where it was broadcasting from.
Right, and
literally pirate radio.
It came out like, I want to say late 2000s, 2010s. It might have been before that. Might have been mid 2000s. Probably like 6, 7.
The aughts.
What's that?
06, 07.
Oh, is that what they call that? Oh, right.
I'm with you. I would just call it 2000s, but that's what I heard that it's called, is the aughts.
Who'd you hear that from, a boomer?
Yeah, probably. 1901, 1902.
They heard it from a fucking...
I don't know, man. I was on a call today, and executive where I work brought up him being the Howard Cosell of the project. And I'm like, Howard Cosell here, looking for Muhammad Ali, George Frazier. He's one of the announcers back in those days. Was a very well-known sports announcer.
How old was this motherfucker?
I mean, he was old then. That was the 60s.
No, I'm talking about the motherfucker at your
Oh, he's probably... I don't know. I'm not going to make comments on that. He's an older guy.
But... And this is where my brain goes.
But see, I knew who it was because of watching old Muhammad Ali fights. Like, he's the announcer on, like, all of those.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I always idolized the fighter and not the announcer.
It's not that I idolize him, but I knew who he was.
I don't learn the announcers' names. I learn the fighters'
He's also a
names.
character in Will Smith's Ali movie.
Still wouldn't. I wouldn't even... No, yeah. But the way my mind thinks is, regardless of how old you are, you have to make sure the room gets
the audience, right. Well, he was talking one-on-one to me, and I think he expected me not to get the reference. but I did.
You're the Howard Cosell. You do absolutely shit and just talk about what everybody else does? Is that what you mean?
I'm not getting into this.
I mean, that's what that sounds like.
I'm going to recuse myself from this conversation.
That's what it sounds like to me. I just, from the outside looking in, it also sounds like you may be a fan, so continue, Mr. Cassell.
Oh, man.
But do something other than talk about it. Where were we?
Well, we were going through the alternate realities and what were the possibilities, like what events would have made our world different. I don't know. I mean, there's a world where you and I have been successful at this, and we're hosting like a show with 1 million followers.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to fit 1,000 blinks into a minute to try to switch over to that reality. But I can't quite get my channel changer to sync up with this TV.
There's one where the rap game in the late 90s, early 2000s, the right person heard your shit, and you're an actor right now. Starring next to Ice Cube is his little brother.
That was Tupac. That'd have been a fact. They'd have silenced me because I don't play by your rules. You know, they give you a certain amount of money, they expect you to show up to Epstein's Island. I'm on my Roddy Rich. I ain't selling myself.
Yeah?
You can catch that.
All right. I don't know, man. What else you got? Any of this trigger your inadvertent? We're only at 1:20.
Something that you did say did, and I was like halfway on it, but then you asked me something else.
Oh, I fucked it up.
What was the last thing that you asked? Other occurrences that could have changed the...
Yeah. That was as we were wrapping up the conversation on hemp, and we had brought up Edison and Tesla, and I pivoted from talking about the planets to talking about alternate realities, and we were in the hemp conversation about what if hemp was never basically legalized. That's all I can do to try to fire your neurons on that one, dude.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, what my thought was.
I see you found your vape, though. That's good.
I did it with my ankle holster.
Fell in the sock.
Fell in my old detective ankle holster. Damn, I had something to say. And it was about, I don't know if it was about an inadvert, but it was off of whatever your last question was, but I can't remember.
What are events that would have triggered differences, major differences in our world, I think was the broader question. But
that's kind of tough, right? Because how would we know?
Well, but that's the thing. It's the art of the possible. Make it up, dude. Like where I was thinking with Tesla, like if we had followed Tesla's research, like we would be in the future that science fiction said we would be in right now.
I agree.
Flying cars, maybe teleportation technology. I mean, that was kind of the philosophy in the, what is it, The Prestige? Which I love that movie.
The magician movie?
Uh-huh. Where, like, they think he made something that teleports. And to your point...
Wasn't that the time travel thing?
It wasn't time travel, but it cloned him. So rather than that device being a teleportation device, it created a clone of that person.
Was that the big ending?
Mm-hmm. And then when you finally... The big ending is you find out that Hugh Jackman's character has been basically killing his clone every night.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that falls into the or into the water trap dies every night.
Right.
There is just a warehouse full of dead Hugh Jackmans laying around.
Right.
Whereas Christian Bale's character did it one time and had a clone of himself and was basically living the same life. Two people living the same life. And which one had it right was kind of the question.
I don't know that I remember all that.
It's a great movie. And for anybody that's listening, I'm sorry for just spoiling the ending.
I know it was a while ago when I saw it, but I don't know that I...
It's a great movie. I recommend a rewatch if you can't remember.
Yeah, I might have to, because I don't remember it. I don't remember it vividly. I do remember the movie, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't know. I was trying to go back down that track of alternate realities, but those were the big ones I wanted to talk about. You watching anything? Anything pop up? Streaming anything?
Lost in Space dropped season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching that.
So I'm gonna pull a Cliff and say, talk about that while I go use the restroom.
Damn, though, because I don't memorize names, so I don't know characters. So this is going to be a very vague description.
You won't give anything away.
Oh, I do know names. Will Robinson. Danger Will Robinson. Yeah, he's grown now. Not grown, but he's like a teenager now. And he's not a child. And I do think that the 3rd season does depict an interesting dynamic between him and his robot, and his robot having to understand that he's not dealing with the same child he was back in the day, and this boy's turning into a man. It kind of I don't know, I guess it kind of humanizes the robot, because it puts you in positions where you see the robot starting to understand the evolution of their relationship, which I definitely think is interesting. I also think that it touches on one of the things Mike was talking about earlier when we were talking about the planets and in Star Trek, how they came back to Earth because they were communicating with the whales. In the season 3, they do, and this isn't a spoiler for anybody that, well, I don't know if it is, to be honest, because I haven't finished the season, but it didn't seem to be a spoiler, but they found out, if you've watched, that the noises that the aliens were making weren't just like to scare the humans, but they had a control panel that would make the noises, so they were actually communicating to each other from across the atmospheres.
The aliens were?
Yeah, okay. People were, I guess they were thinking, it was just organic, just noises, groans, grunts, whatever the case may be, when really the different combinations of these noises would be, their version of Morse code, kind of.
Okay.
And Will finds out with the robot. Well, I guess not finds out. They get stranded at the end of season 2. The kids leave the parents in an escape pod, and Will Robinson and the 2 sisters are leading, I think they said 97 other kids to try to fix the ship to get back to the place where the adults are, but the parents of the kids are still on a mission trying to get to the same place. I think it's Alpha Centaur or something like that. It's
Alpha
their
Centauri.
home base. That is their home base, and the kids are trying to get back as well as the parents. But I don't know, it's a whole lot of shit going on though. But I will say that it is definitely more interesting than its sister show, Another Life.
So is Another Life... Is that the one with
one strong-faced girl?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Are those really related, though?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that they were. Okay.
Yeah, they're related.
All right. I don't think I realized that.
I don't think well, I know... Let me not say they're related, but they all talk about the same places, the Alpha Centauri.
Well, but Alpha Centauri as a destination makes sense because it's not the only, but it's one of very few planets that we've identified that we think has a similar atmospheric construction to Earth. Like, it's in the habitable zone. It looks like it's oxygen based. It looks like there's water.
A real planet?
Yeah, Alpha Centauri is a real planet. And it's in a nearby solar system. It's not that far away. It's still hundreds of years away.
That's interesting because the video that we were talking or that the planet video was talking about all of the Earth-like places here, and they were saying the most, what's the word for it? The
most Earth-like, or... I mean, Star Trek calls it an M-class planet. Like, they give all the different types of planets.
Nah, they didn't get into, like, classes, but I guess... Okay, so they were saying that this specific planet is a... I can't think of the name of it, but it wasn't Alpha Centauri. But the only reason why I brought it up is because this is the planet that they sent the radio signal to back in the early 2000s that's expected to reach their planet by 2029. So I guess it's the closest planet to us.
Yes, so the Alpha... So
that wasn't its name, though.
I looked it up, and I don't know. So Alpha Centauri is not the name of the planet. It is the name of the nearby solar system.
Mm-hmm.
So the solar system is only 5 light years away.
So this wouldn't be...
So this would be something that, like, in theory, you could make it... well, and I don't remember, like, what our rate of travel is through space at this point, but, like, it's reachable.
Right.
If we can kind of continue to figure out how to, accelerate our speed, especially when you don't have gravity as an influencing factor.
I don't think that would be it either, though, right? Because for the radio signal to have been sent 10 years ago and still not be expected to reach the planet
the
till
sound.
2029,
but we have...
That'd have to be further than 5 light years.
No, it wouldn't. So you're thinking light versus sound. So this radio is a sound wave.
Right.
And it's somewhere between basically the speed of light and the speed of audible sound.
Right.
So...
But would it be audible? Because
No. So like a radio wave, to your point, like sorry, I misspoke there. It's not a sound, like it's a sound wave, but it's not an audible sound.
Right.
It's a wave.
Right.
A radio wave is somewhere between like the speed of sound that you hear audibly and the speed of light. So 30 years here, maybe 60 years here to travel, because we can travel the speed of sound.
Right.
Because we've broken the sound barrier. Even landcraft have broken the sound barrier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, reachable within basically a generation, probably. Like, it may take a lifetime. Well, and I'm sure I can look it up. How long would it take to travel to Alpha Centauri?
But in the show, though, Alpha Centauri isn't a planet; it's a
solar system,
a space station.
Okay, but it's probably a space station based in that solar system.
Could be,
would
yeah.
Be my guess.
That could be.
No, it's still way outside of our reach at this point.
That planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, this planet was too, and it wasn't that they were like sending sound waves on it to try to see if they could make it there. They were trying to see if anybody else was there.
Right.
Since that was one of the closest planets that matched our Earth index.
And I think that we believe we've seen either responses to radio waves or we've picked up radio wave-esque noise back from planets before. Now, is that it being reflected back to us? Is that it being just background, like cosmic radiation background noise? Who knows?
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm trying to see if I can... But you know all those planets, like, they're like letters and shit.
Right.
Let me turn this down. Because... Yeah, and I know they don't say the solar system name. Yeah, this is it. But the name of the planet is...
What you got, sir?
I don't know. Fucking ads.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Skip ad.
Yeah, you were exact. Nope, another ad popped.
Ah, son of a bitch!
Yeah,
the worst are the 12-second ones they don't let you skip.
The first one was that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this planet's name is
Unidentified planet.
Oh no, it's not that one.
See, now I need to know like the relevance of what the planet name is. How is this contributing to the conversation? In other news, Hawkeye dropped.
It was the Alpha Centauri shit.
Yeah.
To confirm if that was
a planet in there. Well, what's interesting about Alpha
this
Centauri
planet only has a strip of habitable
land or habitable area.
Is they said it's a
like around the equator or something.
A stationary planet where it's like the moon, where one side of the planet always faces the sun and one side of the planet always faces away.
And the side that faces the sun is the habitable side?
No, neither of them are. The side that faces the sun is too hot for anybody to live, and the side that faces away is too cold, but a strip down the middle,
to like the...
Right, is the exact same as Earth, and they sent a signal out to it that's expected to reach by 2029, but it's not popping up.
What the planet is?
Oh, here it is. It is
Q7932.
WASP 17b.
Okay.
Is the name.
White Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Right. 17b is the amount of blacks that are alive.
That's probably true.
17, that's not 1,000. It's individual Negroes.
Well, they're probably in the habitable strip. They're probably all mixed. You got the blacks that live on the sunny side. You got the whites that live on the cold side.
Listen,
on the outskirts.
That would be.
Or would it just be constant war between those two sides?
Well, no, it wouldn't be, because neither one of them could meet each other, really.
Except in that habitable zone.
Right, but then you got them there.
Well, that becomes technology superiority at that point. Who develops the better technology?
The mixed.
That's true.
Because you're in the zone that can sustain the technology.
That's true.
Technology's not going to be able to withstand that heat or that cold. So essentially you got burnt black motherfuckers.
Darknesses.
And white folks so pale you thought seeing veins was scary. These motherfuckers are see-through.
They're translucent.
Listen. And then you got the curly hair bastards in the middle with all the blackberries.
I like it. It sounds legit.
Yeah. I told you mixed kids would rule the world one day. They rule that one because they got all the...
They got all the stuff in the middle.
Mm-hmm. They got all the tech.
Well, they probably all started off as mixed, and then they just turned different colors based on where they lived after that.
See, I wouldn't think that, right? Because that would say that you were already born into that habitable zone, so by leaving, die
isn't that what happened though? Isn't that the story of Earth? Isn't that Earth?
I would imagine
those of us that moved to the northern hemisphere and went further north are colored like me, and those that stayed around the equator are colored like you.
Well, no, because
cradle of motherfucking civilization, Cliff.
Our whole planet is habitable.
Oh, okay. But that happened where the whole planet was habitable. That's why they're translucent in the dark there. And they're blacker than black in the sun side.
Well, see, yeah. See, my whole thing about that is everywhere has pockets, right? Everywhere has pockets. And I guarantee you, even in that cold area, there's a pocket where people can live that they don't have to bear that weather exactly.
There's a vacation spot.
Right, exactly the same as the hot side, but it's too far of a distance to leave to travel to the warm side in the middle.
Gotcha.
So I would imagine there would be some extremely dark people that have been able to adapt to more heat than others. As well
as... the further you get out from that habitable strip.
Y'all might not be translucent. You might look like
albinos.
It from Addams Family and just be hairy as fuck. Because
we had to adapt to the cold.
Russian whites, boy. Y'all eyebrows are hairy. Do your eyebrows get cold? What the fuck is going on there? I don't understand. Your beard grows into your eyebrows. Fucking Ewoks, I call them.
They're the Wookiees.
Listen. But
who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
I don't know. Listen, I don't know. I'm just going off of what the white man taught me. That's what y'all taught. Y'all got the telescopes. I don't know nothing about that.
So that was the diatribe off of Lost in Space.
Oh, I guess it did start from there, didn't it?
It did. Witcher 2's coming out. Season 2's coming out.
Is it?
Not next Friday, the Friday after.
Oh, it's coming out soon then.
Yeah.
I guess I'll watch that last episode.
Figure out what's going on with Geralt and Cirilla.
Oh no, any of the names.
Who's the other one? It's not. It's a T name, but it's not like a common T name.
And Cirilla and Geralt are?
Well, but those are the ones I remember because they're more prevalent in the video game.
Okay, I never played the video game.
Yeah, Geralt's the main character.
The black-haired or the white?
No, the white-haired. Yeah,
uh-huh.
The Witcher, and then Cirilla is the white-haired princess.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember the other two like female lead.
She has a scar on her face.
I don't remember. It's been a while.
I don't either.
In the video game,
that's what I'm talking about.
She gets Geralt. The guy has the scar on his face in the video game.
I thought the girl did too. I don't know why.
She might. I don't remember. The in the third one, spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't played The Witcher 3, you get to explore like Cirilla's powers. Like she is basically the chosen one, more so than Geralt, which is nice. It's nice when the chosen one isn't the main character. like the Chosen One's more a side character and it more follows Geralt.
What's nice about that?
Because I feel like every movie or every show is always about like, oh, this person's the one. You've got Harry Potter in the Harry Potter series. You've got Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. You've got like you've got Paul in Dune. Like
because number 2's the worst loser.
But that's not what I'm not talking about it coming from the loser's perspective. I'm talking about it like an ancillary character.
We want to know about the person with the powers, not the person with the second best powers.
See, but I don't know. It's a different perspective. I like it. Because you have a better chance to be number 2 than you do to be number 1 by the odds.
Says who? Number 3?
Right. It's funny you said it like that because we do corporate structure. We talk about L1, L2, L3, L4.
What's that?
It's the different layer, like how far. L1 is the president or CEO of the company. L2 are the people that report to that person. L3 would be like my boss, and I'm an L4, which is about as high as I want to go.
Right.
Any higher than that, you're expendable.
Well, you know what? I think business is different.
Yeah. I understand, but just you saying a 1, a 2, or a 3, like, it put me on that same mind train.
Right.
That was my inadvertent off of your thoughts.
Yeah, because business isn't, you're not rewarded by your work. You're not rewarded by your talents. You're rewarded by your management of talent.
Right.
So, in a game, my stats prove to you I'm number 1.
Yep.
In business, their stats prove to you I'm number 1.
Right. I can see that.
And I think that's where it comes down to the capitalism, too, because that's where it gets fucked up, because the guy that is the best at his job, like you said,
isn't necessarily the one who's making the bread.
Right. It may have job security because nobody else can do it like him, but you're not getting paid what you weigh.
I think that depends. I have seen a number of situations, and this is just where I work, because I think it's a little more balanced than some other companies that I've been a part of and others that I've heard of. I know of a few instances in our company where somebody who reports to someone, the person who's further down the chain makes more money. Now, is that common? No, it's not. Does it happen? It does, because pay bands are, $50,000 long or $100,000 long or whatever.
I don't know, but see, I feel like that throws a wrench in the game too, because I don't know that I would want to be a manager of
somebody that makes more than you do.
And not saying that my issue is with the fact that you make more than me. My issue is with the fact that, once again, Nikolai Tesla, there are no checks and balances.
I think that's fair.
Because I can't.
But it comes down to what you expect of a leader. Is a leader there to be hands-on and to be doing that stuff? Like, in this particular instance, it's a developer. The developer isn't doing things on their own. Like, testers validate the developer's work.
Right.
And if it works, I don't necessarily care.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess me just being from my specific situations, in order for me to lead, I have to know every working piece of this.
Of what that group does.
And I don't have to know exactly what it is you do, but I have to have an understanding of each role. Otherwise, I can't accurately.
And it's funny you put it that way, because that's my role, right? So I work in project management. I have to make sure that the people who work on my team are good at project management. I don't have to be in their day-to-day work on what projects they're managing. I need to make sure that they're ticking and tying and following the right methodology.
Right.
But I don't necessarily care about the individual project. Now, do I need to be informed so that if I need to step in on something that I can? Yeah. But outside of that, like, I don't need to be as in the details as they are. I have good people on my team. I know they're going to do their job.
Well, yeah, no. That's not what I was saying. I don't care about your details, but I do need to know,
like, the process and how it happens. So I can say, well,
why didn't you do this when you ran into that?
I agree with you there.
Otherwise, it's like I'm just a dumb motherfucker that gets paid $20,000 less than you. Like, go ahead, I guess you got it.
Yeah.
What am I here for?
Right.
What's my purpose if I can't do what you're asking me to do because I don't know what they do?
Well, and that's also where I think the best leaders are former doers. It's the same reason why I respect a player coach a lot more than I respect somebody that went straight into coaching or didn't play at, like, the college level.
Right.
I respect a head football coach a lot more that played at the collegiate or pro level than I do somebody that played in high school but never played another snap and went straight into coaching.
Right.
And that's not to say I wouldn't hire somebody that didn't have collegiate experience, but if I had two candidates and one had experience playing at the next level and one didn't, I'm probably going with the one that did.
That's where that gets tricky too. Because the best trainers in boxing, a lot of the best trainers never fought.
Gotcha.
And there's a difference between being in and doing and seeing. Because that's one thing that you as a player knows is there's a difference from seeing the play on the field and seeing the play on the sideline.
Yeah.
And as good as you are on that field, you'll never see what they see on that sideline.
That's fair. I hear what you're saying. So, I feel that more in like a fight sport than I do in in football. Like, because a lot of the time it's being able to react to what happens directly in front of you. That's why schemes are designed the way they are, etc.
Right. No, I definitely agree there. I just think it's easier to mask in a team sport.
Yeah.
In a fight sport, it kind of would lead me to believe it should be the opposite. That the best trainers would have been fighters and vice versa for football. Because football is essentially a war where you can win.
Where you've got to be able to move the different pieces and strategy.
Right. Boxing, there's strategy involved, but that it's just that one man. And if you don't know how to react, slip, and counter, how are you going to train me to do that properly in the same situation?
I hear you there.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
I think it's also depth of knowledge of the game, too.
Right.
It depends on age. Like, if we're talking, does somebody who's fresh out of college against somebody that's 15 years into coaching, maybe going with the 15 years of coaching.
Regardless of your level, you've been strategizing longer enough.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's just weird.
Speaking of which, your boy interviewed for a head coaching job.
Oh, really?
I'll talk to you about it afterwards, about where and all that.
That's what's up. Have you heard anything back?
I made it out of the first round.
That's what's up.
I think it's 3 rounds.
Do you know anything about your comp?
No, and honestly, at the high school level, it's a stipend. It's going to be, to me, it will be relatively inconsequential.
Okay.
It won't be significantly more than... It might be double what I get as a coach now.
Right.
So it ain't going to move the needle for me personally, but...
That's what's up, though.
Yeah. We'll see.
Is it a lot of travel involved?
I mean, it's a high school, and it's a local area high school.
Right. Okay.
So, like I said, I'll give you more details off, but yeah, man. We'll see. First one went well.
Yeah, I listen, that's more of a passion thing, because
it is.
You don't pay enough for the extra time.
Well, and then that question came up is like, well, how would you manage this with your full-time job. And I'm like, I will find a way to manage.
Well, that's
it.
not. That doesn't have anything. Yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with it. It's
right.
It's the fact that I have to work a full-time job and
right.
then commit the additional hours. Yet you're not compensating me for those additional hours that I'm providing.
Right. Yep.
Because essentially that's overtime.
Oh yeah.
And instead of you paying me double what I make, you're paying me half, if that.
Right,
we're talking. I'm currently making.
We're talking a head coaching salary would probably be 5% of my salary. And you're asking for the flip side of that is you're asking for 4 months of the year to probably be another 40 hours a week, but the rest of the year it's maybe 10. So it balances.
It balances if that's your passion.
Right, if you care about it.
If you don't, then that's not.
No, you're not going to do it if you don't enjoy it or that's not something you want to do. That ain't a job that you take just to have a job.
Right. Right. And then you don't get paid in the off season.
No, I mean, I assume it's a flat stipend the same way as it would be as an assistant. Either paid monthly during the season or paid all at once at the end.
Well, good luck. Godspeed.
I appreciate it. I don't know if I mean, I don't know. It's not that I don't know if I really want it. I don't know. It's almost one of those things like you get it and then you're like, oh shit, I got it. What the fuck am I doing?
Right. Do you know anything about the staffing that's currently...
I do.
Is that something that you're comfortable with?
I would probably push to bring in... I don't know. My thought process and what I said in the interview is I'd probably try to make it something close to 50-50, meaning 50-50 guys that I know through my years of coaching versus guys that are already on staff or hiring externally or hiring net new.
Right. Yeah, because all that matters.
It does. And, I mean, my overall plan was how do you build a community around it? Not just about the team. How do you build a diverse staff so that you can relate to kids of all walks of life that are on the team? And, you know, the football side of it, I don't have a ton of concern about. Like, I know football.
Right.
I know how to run a defensive scheme. I know how to run an offensive scheme. The X's and O's don't really concern me.
Right.
Because I know that. And honestly, there's 18 million different variations of running X and O's that work.
How do they feel about their playbook?
I think that they realize they need transformation.
Okay.
Because what I would say is the style of football they're playing does not match their talent. And that was actually something that the athletic director resonated with in my interview, was that I put together a 60-page coaching portfolio, basically how I would build a program, 30, 60, 90-day plans. Here's the types of offenses, defenses I've run. Here's how I evaluate, those kind of things. And what I said in my playbook section was, you don't adapt the players to the scheme, you adapt the scheme to the players.
Right.
And I think that this team has particularly tried to continue to run an offense and defense that didn't fit the talent they had.
Right. You know, I'm like... No, I won't say that. I won't say that because it's just not my passion.
Yeah. I get it, man.
I mean, it's interesting, but the level of commitment is just not enough. It's not enough.
No, I get it. I mean, and honestly...
Even when you're off, you still have to come up with game plan, strategy. Your playbook's off, I have to revamp that. I have to make sure the kids are adapted to that new playbook. I have to make sure the coaching staff is on board with the new style.
And again, I'm less concerned about the in-season. I really am. This program has a pipeline problem. They don't have enough kids in their youth programs playing
to pull
into the high school so that they can put
that seems kind of
enough numbers on the field to give you the opportunity and diversity of talent that you need in football. Well, soccer's fucking easy, man.
That's beyond you, though.
It is and it isn't. If you are, that's where I'm saying my concerns are less about football. They're more about pipeline in. Like it's almost going counterintuitive to what I said about recruiting. Like you have to have at least numbers to have the diversity of talent for a successful football team. If you never have any lineman types in your youth programs, you're not going to have lineman types when you get to high school.
Right.
If everybody, if you don't have guys that are comfortable playing defense and giving a hit, you're not going to have that when you get to high school. And I'm not talking like super youth programs. I'm talking about middle school mostly. How do you put that on the field? And so a lot of what I talked about was how do you basically engage the community, because what you're dealing with in this particular community is probably a lot of the concern around like concussions and CTE and all that. And this goes back to, I don't think the NFL has done a good enough job to talk about how they've changed how they teach tackling, how they like player tackling. Safety. No, I mean, I will tell you from my experience, we stopped teaching what I'll call heads up tackling.
I haven't seen a real tackle in
rugby
NFL
tackling
in years. I haven't seen a real around the waist wrap up tackle in at least 5 years in the NFL.
Well,
everything
a lot of
is high, throw them down by the shoulder pads.
And that's the problem. Like, if you look at Seattle's actually the one that held up as and this may have been prior to Pete Carroll, but is the one that's held up as teaching rugby-style tackling. And that's shoulder into the thigh or the waist and wrap that up. Far leg and roll.
Right.
Right? It's all about taking them off their center of gravity. And it also takes concussions out of the game.
I would imagine it to be less concussions now too, because
nobody's hitting.
Right. even when the running back lowers their shoulder and their head, they're hitting chest.
Yeah.
Nobody
plays low. I agree with that
hit
completely.
You and meet you there when you lower your shoulder.
I agree with that completely. Nobody plays low.
They're hitting them in the chest and they're trying to wrestle them down,
to the
and
ground,
that's why they're getting 7 yards off the fall.
Well,
but if you use your force to stop them as they lower theirs, the play's dead there.
Right.
Now, mind you, you may get kicked out because it may end up being a helmet to helmet. But at the same time, if that running back lowers his shoulder, that does not end up being called.
Yeah, no. I agree. Yeah.
Crank that soldier boy. I don't get it. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And that may be another reason why I just don't have the same passion about football, because it's not the same sport.
Nah, it's not. But some of that, again, goes back to my earlier commentary of there's not enough football in football. There's not enough people that have played the game. There's not enough people that understand it, actually involved in doing it.
And then here's my thing about it too, right? You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to,
No.
I'm not trying to talk bad about people. But the soft brain motherfuckers need to be out of the game anyway. If you have a soft brain, get out of the game. This game's not for you. You know what I mean? And that's a real thing. There are people with softer brains that can't take those hits. And then there's people with tougher brains that's that didn't bother me at all.
Right.
And right now, the way they're teaching the game,
They're playing to the lowest common denominator.
Exactly, which is making even the stronger, weaker-headed brain guys weaker because they're not taking those hits anymore.
Yeah.
So when they do take it, it's like,
whoa, what was that?
When before it was like, I didn't feel it.
Right.
It was just a good hit.
There's conditioning. There's
and now you see more CTE because nobody's hitting.
Right.
So when you get a hit, of course it's going to rock you more because you're not used to hitting anyway. Right. It's almost like your mother babying you as a child. Too much babying can hinder that child from being what they need to be. And at some point, you just have to say, just like boxing, the sport is what it is.
Yep.
If you don't want to play, don't play.
Right. Nobody's making you.
That's why you get paid, though, because you may end up with CTE. You may end up concussed and Parkinson's for the rest of your life. You get paid big money for that.
Right.
What kind of person are you? The kind of person that's willing to take that risk? Or
that was. We're talking Any Given Sunday and Shark, right? Like, Shark is like, nah, I need that last hit because I'm gonna get that last bonus, and my family's gonna be good.
That's why I said the Cooper Cups, the Wes Welkers, the Edelmans, all them, they have to play with concussions because you don't have the natural talent of those wide receivers you're going up against. Right. So if you sit out for one game and the next guy comes in and shows you up,
right,
your spot's done, bro. And you don't, and this is what's ironic is only in sports can you say, and you don't have the complexion for the protection. Now, if you black, they like, give him another shot. He's black. I'm sure he's an athlete. If you're a white guy out there, oh, your head hurts? Go to the practice team, kid.
Right.
Hey, 83.
Why don't you take it into the locker room?
83, come hold your hand to this brown paper bag and let me see if you just got bumped up.
All right, man. We are at time. We're about 2:06. You got anything to take us out, sir?
Diamonds are forever.
They won't leave in the night. I had no fear that they might desert me.
I'm going to climb 85B. I'm going to the Diamond Planet, baby.
There you go. Love everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, share, subscribe, do all that. We appreciate all you. Peace out, fools.
Don't rip no wormholes.
Where's Tesla?
Leave that motherfucker dead.